But it's pretty dystopian, man.
It is dystopian, and one of the things that I think accelerated it was the lockdowns, right? So for especially people that had a lot of anxiety, there was people that went a year plus without being in contact with other people other than their immediate family members. And so then they seek more time online. They're online more. And at the same time, this AI-generated 3D image of a person is communicating with you. Just
that, and then the rise of like parasocial relationships. You know, people watch.
Home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. People watch so much of online people, they think they know you, and they don't. But they feel like you're their friend rather than them having like online I was hanging out with a few friends, and you know, they got approached by some people, and these guys like felt like they knew them. Like they're like, "Oh, we know you. Like I love all your stuff." What do you think about? They're asking about one of their friends. Like, what do you think about when this guy did that? And I'm thinking like, this guy doesn't know you. Like,
right.
It's this strange thing where that's our new world. It's different from like when there were celebrities. You didn't feel like you knew Tom Cruise.
Right. Well, that's different too because he didn't really talk. He only talked on screen.
He's playing a character.
Yeah, and when he did talk, it was disastrous. Like, remember when he had that interview with Matt Lauer and he was getting upset at Brooke Shields, who was taking, you know, psychiatric medications, and he's a Scientologist, and they believe those are the devil, and so he was telling him, "You're being glib, Matt. You're being glib," and everybody was like, "Oh my God, this guy's a psycho." You remember those?
I ever since I watched Top Gun, I forgot.
That was disastrous to him.
He said,
but ultimately,
he wrote it out with Top Gun.
He's kind of proven correct in a lot of ways because it turns out that the model of why they were using these SSRIs is not correct. Like, they work, but they're not sure why they work. And the initial thought was that they were addressing some sort of a chemical imbalance in the brain. Mm-hmm. And now that's been proven to not be correct.
How do you think we go about so it's sort of like managing these two things, right? Like, you manage the fact that pharmaceutical companies have profit incentives that leads them to want people to be on, you know, long-term drugs for, you know, ever. That's the best kind of drug. It's one you never get off of.
Right.
With the fact that, like, on the other hand, you have a lot of, like, alternative health guys saying, hey, that's nonsense, to listen to the guys. They're also kind of a lot of them pushing a bunch of pseudoscientific, like, wackiness. So
it's very hard to figure out what's right and what's wrong and what's correct and what's propaganda.
Yeah, because you go oh, Tom has a point about these, like, all these, like, you know, these pills, but it's like, okay, then is the answer nothing? Like, it's just hard to know.
It's interesting, right? Because, like, the question is, like, illness, right? There are certain medications like insulin for people that are diabetic. These are like actual real solutions to an actual medical problem that's being created by a pharmaceutical company that addresses real issues and helps people.
Right.
And then there's also stuff like, hey, you know, maybe you need Adderall. Maybe you need to focus. And so they're giving you speed. Right? And so it's not based on a disease. Like, I can't go to a doctor and the doctor says, hey, you have herpes, you need herpes medication, and then this fixes your disease. It's, I don't feel good. Give me something that makes me feel good. And then they give you something that makes you feel good, and you're like, okay, I'm on medicine because I have an illness. Like, is that really what's going on? Well, what else is causing that illness? Do you exercise? Yeah. Do you sleep right? Are you depressed because you have no meaningful relationships? Are you depressed because you have a job that's horrific and stressful? Like, what is causing this that you're just putting a Band-Aid over? And there's confounding issues that are all souped in together.
And no one's the same. That's the thing. It's like, how much of it is environmental factors? Like, I can speak personally. I have developed some, like, low-grade form of ADHD. But not because I was born.
What does it mean?
Meaning, okay, so, like, in the past, I could read books for hours and hours on end, right? Like, I loved reading books. Due to how much I engage with social media, and I'm someone who tries to monitor this stuff. I was on a flip phone last year for like 6 months out of the year. I mean, like, I try to limit this stuff. But because so much of my job is on social media and Twitter, and I'm scrolling, and the scroll is so addictive because it's you context switch so much, so fast that it's like my brain, when I try to lock into a book, it's like it takes me a bit. And I'm somebody who likes to read a lot. I'd say I was like a voracious reader, especially as a kid. And like as I get older, I'm having to sit down, and it's more like work. I have to intentionally okay, I gotta read this book. I'm gonna cut myself from distractions, and I have all these apps on my phone to try to limit the amount of like screen time that I have, because I know this is bad for my brain. So I don't know. For me, I'm like, Adderall is not a good solution for me, because my problem is not that I was born with this issue. My problem is I'm on my device, and my device is literally overstimulating my brain to when I don't have that overstimulation. I'm just sitting in a quiet room with a book. Now my brain's like, well, where is it? Where's the interaction? So for me, I think the answer is, okay, for me, I just have to unplug more, right? And that's what I try to do. But for somebody who says, I was born like this, I can never pay attention, like, is the answer, some people say Adderall helps them. What do you say to those people? So that's what I mean. It's like, Adderall, it seems like an environmental.
Yeah. Well, I think you're addicted to your phone. For sure.
Yeah.
Most people are. Yeah. I am very fortunate that I'm not addicted to social media. I'm addicted to watching YouTube videos, which is a totally different animal.
Yeah.
And I'm also addicted to watching YouTube videos on things that I enjoy, which is better. So I've filled that gap with things like I watch like fight videos and professional pool matches. It stimulates me in a way, but I'm not engaging with this context switching constantly, like scrolling on Twitter. I go to Twitter maybe 5-10 minutes a day. I go and I see what the fuck's going on. Like, what is everybody mad at? Like, who's in trouble? Like, I'll shit scroll.
Such a funny way to describe Twitter. It's so accurate, too.
But I do not post.
Right.
If I post and ghost. I just post and I leave it alone. I don't read the comments ever. I don't read any of my comments. And
I think that's great.
That is very important for famous people. It's very, very important, because I have friends that don't, and they'll come to me and you know what they're saying? I go, how do you know what they're saying? Like, what do you give a shit?